June 22, 1941. Dawn breaks over the western edge of the Soviet Union near the town of Dubno, Ukraine. Low mist clings to wheat fields still untouched by shell fire. German artillery crews are already awake, boots sinking into wet soil, hands confident, movements rehearsed. This is Operation Barbarossa, the largest land invasion in human history. For months, the Wehrmacht has been told this will be a march, not a fight. The Red Army, they believe, is backward, disorganized, and equipped with machines that look rough, crude, unfinished. Panzer III and Panzer IV cruise light cigarettes and joke quietly as engines idle. They have crushed Poland. They have broken France in weeks. Their tanks are polished, their welds clean, their optics precise. Across the fields, Soviet resistance is expected to crumble the same way. German commanders have seen photographs of Soviet armor. Squat silhouettes, poor paint, sloppy construction, machines built in haste by a state that values numbers over quality. The word used in briefings is primitive. Then the ground begins to vibrate. At first, it sounds like distant thunder. Not artillery. Too steady. Too heavy. Tank Commander Oberleutnant Franz Müller lifts his binoculars and scans the tree line ahead. Through the haze, shapes emerge. Wide tracks. Low turrets. Angled steel faces catching the weak morning light. They do not look like the Soviet tanks he was shown in training manuals. These are different, larger, broader, moving with unsettling confidence. The first T-34s break into the open. German gunners adjust quickly. Range estimated. Fire orders shouted. A Panzer, the third's 50mm gun cracks, the shells streaking across the field and slamming into the lead Soviet tank. The impact sparks against the hull. No penetration, no smoke. The Soviet tank does not slow down. Another shot. Then another. The shells strike at shallow angles and ricochet away, screaming into the dirt. Inside Müller's turret, the laughter stops. Someone swears. The loader freezes for half a second before ramming another round home. This is not supposed to happen. The Soviet T-34 keeps coming. Its armor is not thick by German standards, but it is sloped, sharply, deliberately. The angled plates turn kinetic energy sideways, wasting it. German shells, designed to punch through vertical armor, are suddenly useless. At 200 meters, where a Panzer should be lethal, the T-34 appears immune. The Soviet gun answers, a 76.2mm. Round slams into a Panzer for 2 Müller-S left. The German tank erupts, turret lifting slightly as flame bursts from the hatches. The crew does not escape. Another shot. Another Panzer is crippled, tracks shredded, hull burning. Soviet tanks advance through fire and smoke, engines roaring, turrets traversing with brutal calm. German radio traffic turns frantic. Reports flood command channels. New Russian tank, sloped armor, shells ineffective, multiple Panzers destroyed. The confidence that fueled the invasion begins to evaporate in real time. Inside one T-34, Junior Lieutenant Mikhail Petrov grips the steel handles of his turret. The interior smells of oil, sweat, and cordite. The tank is loud, brutally loud, the engine shaking every bolt. Visibility is poor. The optics are inferior to German sights. The finish inside is rough. Weld seams are uneven. Paint flakes from vibration. This is not a refined machine, but it is built to fight not to impress. Petrov received his tank only weeks earlier. Training was rushed. Many of his crew barely know each other's names, but they understand one thing clearly: keep moving, never stop. The armor works best when angled. The moment they halt, German guns will find weak points. Ahead, a Panzer attempts to flank. Petrov rotates the turret manually. It is slower than German systems, but it works. The gunner fires. The shell punches through the German tank's side armor with ease. Flames spill out. The battlefield fills with burning wrecks that just hours earlier were symbols of German superiority. By mid, German formations that were supposed to advance 30 kilometers are stalled, pinned down by a machine they were told not to fear. Officers stare at maps that no longer make sense. Doctrine collapses under steel reality. The Red Army was not supposed to have anything like this. Word spreads fast. From Dubno to Minsk, from stunned panzer crews to shaken generals. The Soviet Union has unveiled something the Germans did not anticipate. A tank that ignores convention. A tank that sacrifices comfort for survival. A tank that looks crude because it does not care how it looks. It only cares whether it lives. And as the smoke thickens and the sun climbs higher, one truth becomes unavoidable. This war on the Eastern Front will not be a parade. It will be a grinding, mechanical slaughter. And at its center rolls a machine that has just rewritten the rules of armored warfare by early afternoon. The dust has settled enough for senior officers to move forward. Generalmajor Erhard Raus steps from his staff car, binoculars already raised. He has fought in Poland. He has watched French armor break and run. He expects wrecks. What he does not expect are panzer holes pierced clean through. Crews dead inside machines that should have protected them. A German recovery team approaches one of the Soviet tanks left behind, immobilized but intact. They circle it cautiously, weapons ready, expecting a trap. The tank is silent. When they finally climb onto the hull, what they find only deepens the confusion. The welds are uneven. The paint is thin. The interior, when they force the hatch open, is cramped and crudely finished. This is not German engineering. This is not precision craftsmanship. It looks rushed, almost careless. And yet, it has torn through some of the best armored units in Europe. Raus runs a hand along the sloped armor plate, measuring the angle with his eye. He understands immediately. This is not an accident. This tank is designed around physics, not appearance. Sloped armor increases effective thickness without increasing weight. It deflects shells instead of absorbing them. German designers know this concept, but they dismissed it as impractical for mass production. The Soviets did not. Inside the turret ring, German engineers noticed something else. The tracks are wide, far wider than anything on a Panzer. This tank is built for mud, snow, and bad roads, built for the Russian landscape itself. Where German tanks bog down, this machine keeps moving. Reports arrive from other sectors. Near Minsk, the same story repeats. German units engage Soviet armor they believe to be inferior. At close range, their shots bounce. At medium range, they fail entirely. Only heavy artillery or point-blank side shots have any chance of stopping the new tank. Field commanders begin issuing desperate instructions. Aim for the tracks. Call for 88mm anti-aircraft guns. Use explosives. Anything. Standard doctrine no longer applies. Back at headquarters, Panic remains unspoken but present. The invasion plan assumes speed. It assumes armored thrusts slicing deep into Soviet territory. That plan relies on German tanks being superior. The appearance of the T-34 threatens the entire operational concept of Barbarossa. Meanwhile, Soviet crews are just as shocked as their enemies. Though for a different reason, many had feared German armor. They had seen what Panzers did in Poland and France. They expected to be outmatched. Instead, they are watching shells glance off their hulls, watching German tanks burn, watching fear replace confidence. Lieutenant Petrov's unit pushes forward again. As orders come down, advance, do not allow regrouping. Do not let them learn how to counter you. The Red Army understands this moment is fragile. Surprise is a weapon, and it must be used quickly. The battlefield becomes chaotic. German infantry scatter, desperately trying to attach magnetic mines to passing tanks. Most are cut down by machine gun fire before they get close. Anti-tank guns fire until barrels glow, crews sweating and shaking as they reload again and again. Some T-34s are knocked out. Their crews die inside when ammunition ignites. The tank is not invincible. It is loud, uncomfortable, and brutal on its operators. Gearboxes fail. Turrets jam. Visibility is terrible. Many crews fight nearly blind, but the balance has shifted. German after-action reports use unfamiliar language, unexpected resistance, new enemy equipment, heavy losses, tactical surprise. These are words not often associated with early German victories. Within weeks, Adolf Hitler himself is briefed on the problem. He demands answers. How could the Soviets, whom he considered technologically inferior, produce something so dangerous? Engineers from Daimler-Benz and Krupp are ordered to investigate immediately. Captured T-34s are shipped west for inspection. The conclusion is grim. Germany has been outpaced in a critical area. Their tanks are finely engineered but over-specialized. The Soviet tank is rough, adaptable, and designed for mass war. One German officer writes later that the T-34 did not just destroy tanks. It destroyed certainty as autumn approaches and the rains turn roads into rivers of mud. The T-34 proves another advantage. German vehicles bog down. Engines strain. Tracks spin uselessly. Soviet tanks roll forward, wide tracks gripping the earth, pushing through conditions that should have stopped any offensive. The laughter from the first days of the invasion is gone now, replaced by respect and fear. The German army is learning, slowly and painfully, that it has entered a different kind of war. One not decided by polish or parade ground perfection, but by who can build machines that survive the worst conditions imaginable and keep fighting. And this realization is only the beginning. By October 1941, the shock has hardened into a problem no German commander can ignore. The Eastern Front has stretched into a vast, bleeding scar across Europe. Supply lines are thin. Winter is coming fast. And somewhere in the forests, fields, and ruined villages ahead, the T-34 is waiting. German armored units adapt where they can. Panzer crews are drilled to avoid frontal engagements at all costs. Orders are explicit. Do not fight it head-on. Flank it, lure it, immobilize it. Artillery officers begin positioning 88mm guns, not for aircraft, but for tanks. When one of these guns hits, the T-34 can be killed. But it requires planning, coordination, and luck. The problem is that war rarely offers any of those in abundance. At Matsensk, south of Moscow, General Heinz Guderian's 2nd Panzer Army collides again with Soviet armored forces. Here, T-34s strike from concealed positions, emerging from tree lines and ravines at close range. German columns are ambushed, lead vehicles destroyed first, trapping the rest in kill zones. The speed and aggression of Soviet counterattacks surprise even veteran commanders. Inside his tank, Petrov feels the seasons changing. The cold seeps through steel. Frost forms on the inside walls. The engine is harder to start every morning. His crew huddles close, breath fogging in the dim light. The tank is a weapon, not a shelter. It punishes its crew even when idle, yet it continues to function when German machines falter. German engineers work desperately behind the lines. They study captured Soviet tanks bolt by bolt. They test fire against the sloped armor. They argue over designs late into the night. The result is a decision that would have been unthinkable a year earlier. Germany must build a tank specifically to counter the T-34. This leads to the Panther. The Panther is not rushed into service lightly. It incorporates sloped armor, wide tracks, and a powerful long-barrel gun designed to penetrate Soviet steel at range. In many ways, it is a direct response to what German officers first encountered in the wheat fields months earlier. But innovation takes time. Factories are retooled, designs refined. Meanwhile, the Soviets keep building at plants in Kharkov, Stalingrad, and later deep in the Urals. T-34s roll off assembly lines in staggering numbers. Skilled workers are scarce. Many have been drafted or killed. Women, teenagers, and elderly men take their places. Shifts run day and night. Quality control is secondary to output. If a tank can move and fire, it goes to the front. The Soviet philosophy is simple. Quantity has a quality of its own. By the time the first Panthers appear in significant numbers, the Red Army has fielded tens of thousands of T-34s. Crews are more experienced now. Tactics improve. Infantry support becomes tighter. The tank that once relied on surprise now relies on coordination and mass dot. At Kursk in 1943, the confrontation reaches its climax. The largest tank battle in history unfolds across open plains and fortified lines. German Panthers and Tigers clash with waves of Soviet armor. The fighting is relentless. Explosions churn the earth into dust and fire. The T-34 is no longer the undisputed terror it once was. German guns can kill it. Mines destroy it. Air attacks cripple it. But it remains present everywhere. Rolling forward, absorbing losses. For every one destroyed, another appears. Petrov does not survive. Kursk, his tank is hit by an anti-tank shell during a push against a German strongpoint. There is no dramatic final stand. No last words. One moment of movement. One flash of white light, and then silence. His death is one among tens of thousands, and that is precisely the point. The T-34 is not a hero's machine. It does not rely on individual brilliance. It relies on endurance, on numbers, on a brutal understanding of industrial war. German officers later admit that once the Soviets learned to use the tank properly, the balance could never be restored. The Wehrmacht remains dangerous, lethal, professional, but it is now reacting, not dictating. By late 1943, The Eastern Front no longer feels like an invasion. It feels like a retreat in slow motion. The tank that was mocked for its rough finish has forced Germany into an arms race it cannot win. It has consumed resources, redirected strategy, changed doctrine. It has turned confidence into caution and caution into defeat. The T-34 did not win the war alone, but without it, the war on the Eastern Front would have looked very different. And in the frozen fields where it first appeared, the laughter that greeted it has long since been buried beneath wreckage, snow, and memory. February 1945, East Prussia. The ground is frozen solid, cracked like broken glass beneath steel tracks. What remains of the German army is pulling back toward the Reich itself, fighting delaying actions, village by village, forest by forest. The war that was supposed to end in months has dragged on for nearly 4 years. And still, the same silhouette keeps appearing through the smoke. Low, wide, sloped. German. Soldiers no longer joke when they hear the engine note. They recognize it instantly. The deep, grinding roar of a T-34 approaching through snow and rubble. Veterans mutter the name like a warning. New recruits learn it the hard way. For many of these Germans, this tank has been a constant presence since 1941. They first saw it as an anomaly, then as a threat. Now, it is simply inevitable. In a ruined town outside Kingsburg, a Volkssturm unit prepares an ambush with Panzerfausts. The men are old or barely trained. Their hands shake in the cold. They know the weapon can kill a tank at close range. They also know how close that range is. When the T-34 appears at the end of the street, its armor streaked with mud and soot, it does not slow. It has been here before, hundreds of times. The first Panzerfaust hits and detonates against the side armor, damaging the track. The tank slews but keeps firing. The coaxial machine gun sweeps the windows. Infantry follow behind it, moving in its shadow. The second shot kills it. Flames erupt. The crew dies inside within minutes. Another T-34 rolls forward to take its place. This is what the German army has been fighting against. Not a single machine, but a system, an idea executed at industrial scale. The T-34 is no longer just a tank. It is the physical expression of Soviet wartime philosophy. Simplicity, adaptability, ruthless production. After the war, German generals write their memoirs. They analyze mistakes. They debate strategy. Again and again, one machine appears in their reflections. They describe the moment they realized their assumptions were wrong. That technical refinement alone could not win a war of continents. That elegance could be crushed by endurance. All of it traces back to those first encounters in 1941. The irony is sharp. The T-34 was never meant to impress. It was meant to survive. Its rough welds, its cramped interior, its brutal working conditions were the price paid for something far more important. Reliability in the worst environments on Earth. The ability to be built by the thousands and thrown back into battle again and again. By the time the Red Army reaches Berlin, T-34s are everywhere, rolling past shattered monuments, firing into ruined buildings, climbing over debris that once symbolized German power. The machine that was laughed at now stands in the enemy's capital. When the war ends, the T-34 does not disappear. It becomes the most produced tank in history. It serves for decades across the world. Its influence shapes tank design long after the smoke clears. But its true legacy is not steel or numbers. It is the lesson it taught in the opening days of Barbarossa. That wars are not won by what looks impressive in peacetime. They are won by what works when everything goes wrong. In mud, in snow, under fire, with lives on the line. The German army learned that lesson too late. They laughed at the tank, because they mistook roughness for weakness. And by the time they understood what it really was, the cost had already been paid in burning panzers, broken plans, and a war they could no longer control.